Alright, this is Dan Gregg, and I'm going to show you some information about a video I'm going to make on the word atonement. So a resource, as most of you know, or at least those of you who read my books know, I think the word atonement should be banned, the word propitiation should be banned, and the correct meaning of the word is to purge or to cleanse. So in this video, I'm going to show you a resource for some evidence of why I'm right about this. Okay, so first, and this you can look up for yourself, we're going to go from Torah Times here to Google, search engine, google.com. Okay, so now we're on Google. And we're going to type in the search blank here, we're going to type C H Dodd, the Bible and the Greeks. Enter. Okay. And we get past the advertisements here. Okay, so it's not finding what I want right away. So we will put on the end of our search blank here, archive. So maybe we get the Internet Archive here. Yes, we do. Okay. As you see, when you do this search here, let's expand that window a little bit. You see it, C H Dodd, the Bible and the Greeks, archive. Okay, so we have the Internet Archive here. So we click on that link right there. Okay, and it loads up the Internet Archive. Okay, so on the Internet Archive, in order to borrow the book, you will have to get an account. Okay. So, borrow for 1 hour. Click there. Okay, it already logged me in with my password automatically, I guess. But if you have an account, you can get in here. It's just a matter of a password and email exchange. So let's full screen it here. And then back out a little bit. All right, and go to two-page view, The Bible and the Greeks by C H Dodd. Okay, and we want to flip over to the table of contents here. We'll full screen it. Okay, and expand the print a little bit. And we see down here, there's a chapter on atonement. Pull it up a little more. Okay, on page 82. All right. So you go down to the bottom bar here and you click over. All right, page 93. Back off here a little bit. Click off back a few pages, page 90. Wait for it to load in the image, 84. 82. And you can see there's the chapter on atonement. Okay, so let's single page this. Okay, atonement. So this is the article. All right. Okay, so he's going to explain here, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but he's going to explain here that this is an Oxford scholar, I believe. He's going to explain that atone is used synonymously in the Septuagint with the word to cleanse or to purge. Okay? So atonement means appeasement in modern English, and propitiate also means the same thing. Okay, but we'll find out that KIPPER, which he has here in the Hebrew, usually translated to make atonement. So let's look through some of his choice comments here about this. Alrighty. First of all, he says the etymological meaning of kippur is a matter of controversy. Okay, so actually he's going to mention the controversy even though he claims it doesn't concern us. Okay. Then he explains that in Greek, Hellenistic Greek, the term that we translate atonement or propitiate in our institutional translations actually had two meanings in Greek, and only one of those meanings was placate. The other explanation he explains is expiate. Now, I don't entirely understand his definition of expiate because that seems to have also acquired the modern definition of propitiate. But what's important is he explains expiate with the meaning cleanse. Okay. So he goes over to Daniel 9 here, Daniel 9:24, and he explains that the Septuagint translators explain it in the Greek words here, and he explains. So we'll just look at the English explanation here. All right. And this is where he claimed the etymology didn't matter, but he mentions it. Okay, he said, here in the Septuagint, the LXX, the translators would seem to have been influenced by an etymology of kipper, which finds favor with some moderns, giving the sense to wash away, as in the Babylonian kupuru. Okay? So that goes along with the sense of the original meaning of the word kippur to mean to cleanse or to wipe away. Okay? He explains here in Exodus 30:10 we have two occurrences of kippur and one of its derivatives, kippurim. In the first case, kippur Aharon el Karno Taiv, Kono is rendered regularly, and then he has Kai Ke Exilas Setai Peri Auto Ahron Epitone Keraiton Auton. While the second case he has Yikaper Alayo, which is rendered Katharei auto. Okay, so the underlined word here is important. This is the Septuagint rendering of the word, and the word here, this means cleanse, this word. So he's showing by parallel usage of the Septuagint translators how they regarded the phrase. Okay, and then he says in the Vatican manuscript of the Septuagint here, the word kippur is translated katharesmu. Okay, so that's another form of the word for cleansing. Okay, and then in the Alexandrian manuscript, the same is translated with the same word here, katharesmu. Okay, to cleanse. Okay, where once again we may fairly suspect a conflate reading. Okay, so the renderings katharizing, which means to cleanse, for kipper and katharizmas for kippurim. Okay, so that's a verb and that's a noun. Okay, kippurim occur elsewhere. The former in the Exodus, the latter, and he goes through different passages showing how they're synonymous. Okay. Okay, so let's, next page here. Okay, so more examples. To sum up. Okay, so he's going to give a summary here. To sum up, where the Septuagint translators do not render KIPPER and its derivatives by words of the ilas kesthai class. Okay, so he's saying where they don't use this Greek word elasmos, they render the words which give the meaning to sanctify, purify persons or objects of ritual, or to cancel, to purge away, forgive sins. We should therefore expect to find that they regard elaskesthai class as conveying similar ideas. Okay, he goes into some more evidence here. All right, let's get down to, don't want to lose you in the woods too much here. Just going through Psalms passages. Okay, so he comes up with 3 passages where the word seems to be used in the sense of to placate. And he's going to explain why these are not exceptions to the conclusions. And these 3 passages, okay, Zechariah 7:2, I believe, 8:22, and Malachi 1:9. And these 3 passages, then, we meet with the first time with the unmistakable examples of the ordinary classical and Hellenistic sense to propitiate. In all other cases where Hila occurs in Hebrew, okay, translators have avoided the rendering ex elaskesthai. The usual rendering is, okay, so I'm not going to read too much Greek here. Elsewhere we find, but not with the deity of the object. We may therefore ask whether there is not something exceptional about the usage in these 3 passages, which accounts for the choice of a rendering otherwise avoided. In the first and third of the passages, there is a distinct tone of contempt. It is useless to think of placating. Okay, and then he uses the corruption of the divine name here. Okay, Yud-He, Wav-He. In Zechariah 7:2-14, we have a repetition of the old prophetic declaration, not sacrifice or fasting, but justice and murdering are Yud-He, Wav-He's demands. The burden of Malachi 1:9 is, I have no pleasure in you, saith Yud-He, Wav-He, Sabaoth, neither will I accept an offering at your hand. Thus it seems clear that the translators have deliberately used ex elaskesthai with a note of contempt for its standard meaning in pagan usage as unworthy of the God of Israel. Okay, in Zechariah 8:22, the case is not so clear, but it is noteworthy that here, not Israel, but pagan peoples are representatives as coming to propitiate Yud-He, Wav-He. Okay, so showing a different attitude toward the nations, and this is probably the translator's fault of the Septuagint for doing this. In allowing, okay, so this may have influenced the translators in allowing this ordinary pagan sense of ex elaskesthai to appear. The use here is, in any case, clearly exceptional. Okay, he goes through some more examples here. Alrighty. You can read it if you want. To sum up, so this is the important part from Dodd's chapter here. To sum up, where the words of the elaskesthai class do not render KIPPER and its derivatives everywhere except in the 4 cases last considered, they render words which fall into one or the other of 2 classes. One, with the human subject, to cleanse from sin or defilement. 2, to expiate, with the divine object. Okay, which I think he's using in a sense of to blot out, which would make it equivalent of cleansing. To be gracious, to have mercy, to forgive. It is noteworthy that in rendering words of the second class, the passive and middle are used interchangeably. It looks as though there had been a development towards this use of the word along two lines. A. The usual pagan use of ilaskasai gives it the meaning to propitiate, to make propitious. Hence the passive means to be propitiated, to become propitious, and so of the deity, to be gracious. The less common use, or B, the less common use of exilaskasai, as in Plato's laws, and so on, gives it the meaning to cancel sin, to expiate, with a human subject. Okay. Where the subject is divine, as in many passages of the Septuagint, though apparently in no pagan writer, the act of canceling sin is an act of forgiveness. And so, ilaskesthai and exilaskesthai acquire the meaning to forgive, which is substantially identical with that of the passive, to be gracious toward. This seems to be an entirely new usage with no pagan parallels. The development of meaning lies in the realm of religious experience and theology, not in the realm of philology. To turn now to the very numerous instances where words of the ilaskasai class are used to translate KIPPER and its derivatives. Ilaskasai, exilaskasai, in middle with the direct object, to cleanse, to purge, to sanctify, to cancel sin. Okay, a few more passages. All right. Okay, so here's another little summary tidbit here. The meaning is identical: to make expiation for, to expiate, or cleanse. So he's using cleanse as a synonym for expiation here. So we need to avoid the modern definition of that word too. Okay. Just looking for the conclusions here. Okay, discusses KIPPER, which is another form of the word KIPPER. Okay, to sum up here. In general, the general usage of the words of the ilaskasai class to render KIPPER and its derivative corresponds with the conclusions we have drawn from their use to render other Hebrew words, and from synonyms used elsewhere to render the same Hebrew words. That the Septuagint translators did not regard KIPPER, when used as a religious term, as conveying the sense of propitiating the deity, but the sense of performing an act whereby guilt or defilement is removed, and accordingly rendered it by ilaskasai in this sense. There is no exception falling under his category C here. Thus, our three lines of inquiry lead to a common conclusion. There are only 4 passages in the Septuagint which could be made to support a different conclusion. Okay, 3 of these we have seen are definitely exceptional, and to indicate that while the translators were aware of the meaning ilaskasai equals to propitiate the deity, they regarded it as inappropriate to the religion of Israel. Okay. Thus, Hellenistic Judaism, as represented by the Septuagint, did not regard the cultus as a means of pacifying the displeasure of the deity, but as a means of delivering man from sin, and it looks in the last resort to God himself to perform that deliverance, thus evolving a meaning of ilaskasai strange to non-biblical Greek. Okay, then he discusses the New Testament, and he comes down here to Romans 3:25, which is going to be the subject of my other video here. Here it is unnecessary for our present purpose to decide whether elasterion is an adjective in the accusative singular masculine or a neuter substantive. Okay, you can throw that sentence away, so we don't have to understand it. In any case, the meaning conveyed in accordance with the Septuagint usage, which is constantly determinative for Paul, is that of expiation and not propitiation. And by expiation, the author here means a cleansing or purging. Okay, most translators and commentators are wrong. Okay, he discusses this John passage, and we come down here to his final conclusion. The Johannine usage thus falls into line with biblical usage in general. The common rendering propitiation is illegitimate here as elsewhere. Okay, so the point is, if you study the ancient Greek translation of the Torah and the prophets, the word KIPPER is synonymously translated with words meaning to cleanse, to purge directly. And this is how John himself explains it. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. All right, so in the video I will go into more details on this. There's a lot of shortcuts that Dodd took here, but that gives you the point. Let's see, you can go back to the beginning of this here and see what the guy's credentials are. Okay. Alrighty, get back to front matter here. Bible and the Greeks by C H Dodd, published in London. Let's see, Manchester, 1934. Cambridge, 1954, or Cambridge, however you're supposed to pronounce that. Okay, so he discusses the names of God, the law. He doesn't quite get to the right point on this chapter, but nobody's perfect. Okay, well educated in Greek literature. He's aware of BD and B. He criticizes Liddell and Scott's for a poor definition on this subject. I don't think I read that to you. Okay. So he is well qualified to comment on these issues. All right, so that's my evidentiary documentary here on the meaning of the word KIPPER. Thank you for listening.